So if you're a Yankees fan and the Yankees win the World Series and this is the greatest day in history, and I say to you, Dominic, Yankees won the World Series, what would you think that I think about the Yankees having won the World Series?
I would think you're a Red Sox fan.
And the seventh commandment is about the power of punctuation, and I titled it, The Speaker Punctuates. And the reason I made that so explicit is when we are taught to read and write, there is a series of rules that are communicated to us through these symbols. And if you take somebody, say, from the Middle East who learned Arabic, and you show them the Roman alphabet, it's foreign to them just as their alphabet is foreign to us. But in the English language and many of the Latin-based languages, you'll notice there are periods and exclamation points and question marks. When we are taught to speak, notice when we ask a question, I don't say, Dominic, what's for lunch, question mark? We actually change the tone of the way we speak to really lead or to telegraph the fact that a question is coming. But we don't say question mark and exclamation and periods, commas, and parentheses. We build them into our language. And the reason it became such an important commandment is because what I found when people were speaking, if you had something really exciting to say, the only way I'm going to know that you're excited is by the way you say it. So if you're a Yankees fan and the Yankees win the World Series and this is the greatest day in history, and I say to you, Dominic, Yankees won the World Series, what would you think that I think about the Yankees having won the World Series?
I would think you're a Red Sox fan.
No, you must be rooting for someone else, because I got to say, Chuck, you're not looking excited.
Right.
Well, sometimes the way that we convey the information and the manner by which we engage speaks volumes about how we feel about our subject matter. So in the case of, the Yankees won the World Series, I didn't punctuate it. I didn't exclaim it. I didn't put in the rules that we are taught to read and write. Why don't we bring that into oral communication? Because it feels too awkward. What idiots are we to say, hey, Dominic, the Yankees won the World Series, exclamation point. There's a more efficient way to do it. Dominic, the Yankees, they won the World Series. And if you can compare and contrast, the Yankees won the World Series, the Yankees won the World Series. The reason that's important as human beings, our moods transfer to other people. And what happens is they give it all back. It's an expression that we use in leadership, is that the leader brings their weather with them. So we bring rain, we bring sun, we bring clouds, because anybody that's going to come into the meeting is going to be enveloped by our weather. So whatever we brought, they are now in the storm or they're in the happiness. So be mindful of, if you're really excited about something, if you say it with a lack of enthusiasm, they may not believe it. They hear your words, but if they don't hear the manner and they don't feel that you are sincere in your communication, you will minimize the impact of what you're trying to convey.
We learn language. There are things that we do throughout our lives in school, in reading, that we learn language in these different ways. But if you trace it back to where written language began, these are symbols and metaphors for feelings, symbols and metaphors for emotion and sincerity. And so the question mark was, that's what we came up with to talk about this, to communicate this. We found a way to communicate that. So it starts with you, it starts with the speaker, it starts with the leader.
Punctuation is not something that has to be visual, it's something that you have to feel. So a lot of what we've explained so far, to summarize many of the 10 commandments, they're very expressive in your word choices. But when you know about body language and punctuation, they're very different. It's the manner by which you engage. And generally, when somebody walks into a meeting, what they're going to look at, they're going to hear your words, they're going to see the manner by which you engage, and they're going to put those two together. And the impressions that they form about you and your credibility, do I believe you? It has to go so much more than the words. It has to be integrated into the manner. That's the human side of us. Otherwise, we would just let the machines do the talking. But we're not ready for that. We know it's coming.
We're getting to that one.
And I've seen the movie Her, and it was a phenomenal movie with Scarlett Johansson's voice coming out of a machine. It sounded so real. But until AI takes over, because we know the algorithms are watching us, they look at our buying habits, but the machines are not talking yet. Which leads us to our 8th commandment. Notice I haven't said a word. And to many listeners, this sounds awkward. And as a radio host myself, what I just described is something called radio silence. It's not something we want to do on the radio, but most of us aren't talking on the radio. We're talking to each other. On the radio, every second counts. But when we're speaking to each other, we don't have to pollute the air with every single word just because we don't like the awkwardness of silence.